Guys, it is Tommy from Saleslucky.com, and welcome. Today's topic is about how to tell somebody to do something without directly telling them. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, I was thinking while I was at work the other day. Oftentimes, we have to make suggestions as salespeople, or just as people in general, right? We're going about life. We want to make suggestions, get somebody to do something. And we can either go the direct approach or an indirect approach. And don't get me wrong, I love the direct approach. I think I'm more of a direct person myself. I like to communicate directly, and that's incredibly useful. Today's video is about the other approach, which is more of an indirect approach, and it's incredibly valuable as well in certain contexts. So I'll give you guys the example of, let's say you're working with a prospect. Let's say they're a prospect from a trucking company or owner of a trucking company. And you're getting to the end of the call, and it's time to talk about next action steps. Well, how would you bring up that next action step? How would you suggest them to do what you want to suggest them to do, right? So you could go ahead and directly say, hey, Mr. Prospect, it's been a great call, coming up on our time here. So, as far as the next step, this is what would be the next step. This is what I would recommend as a next step. And you can suggest that directly, which is fine. But today's video is more about the indirect approach. So what could be a more indirect way for you to suggest them to do something, right? And it comes down to this. It comes down to saying it in a way where it's as if you're sharing with them how other people just like them have done it in a past in a similar position. What do I mean by that? So let's say you want to suggest your prospect to include other stakeholders, other colleagues into this meeting, into this deal. What could you say? Again, you could go in the direct approach, say, hey, Mr. Prospect, the best next step is to get some of your colleagues on board in this conversation, which is okay. But the thing is, when you say it directly like that, it's your suggestion, it's your idea, it's not the prospect's idea, right? So you could say it in a more indirect way. You could say, hey, Mr. Prospect, it's been a great call so far. We're coming up on our time, and just so you know, as far as other prospects or other customers that we've worked with at this point in time, what they've liked to do is they've liked to include other stakeholders or other colleagues that are relevant to be in this conversation, so they could get some insights around how this could impact them as well. Do you think that would be a good course of action, or do you think that would be a good next step? And if you say it in this way, like, hey, Mr. Prospect, what we've done in the past with other customers just like yourself at this point in time is A, B, and C. Include other prospects or include other stakeholders in this conversation. They're going to be a lot more open to that because of two things. One, you're inducing the principle of social proof. So you're saying, hey, Mr. Customer, what we've experienced in the past is how other customers just like you at this point, what they've liked to do is bring other stakeholders on board. So they're thinking in their minds, oh, other people have done that before? Maybe I should do that too. So it becomes their idea, not your idea, right? So they don't have to accept your idea, it becomes their idea because that thought popped in their mind. So, if you do it this way, it becomes their idea and not your idea. So if you say it to them directly, they would have to accept that, and they would have to accept your idea, take your idea and accept that. Whereas if you said, hey, Mr. Prospect, having worked with other customers in the past, typically at this point in time, this is what they've liked to do. In their mind, when they're hearing that, they go, hey, if other people have done that, maybe I should do that too. So it induces social proof, and also it turns it from your idea to their idea. And if it's their idea, they're much more likely to accept that, right? So The other point I wanted to share with you guys in this video is I came across a quote while I was reading Robert Cialdini's new book, Persuasion, and he talks about how in sales and influence, when we're dealing with human beings, he says, it's important here to take note of my choice of the word likelihood, which reflects an inescapable reality of operating in the realm of human behavior. Claims of certainties in that province are laughable. Basically, what he's saying is that as we're learning these concepts, these principles, and these strategies, a crucial thing to remember in sales and in influence is we're dealing with people. We're dealing with real life. And if you've been in sales for any number of years, you understand that anything can happen at any time because we're dealing with human beings, and human beings are very irrational and are, in fact, very emotional creatures. So it's just a good thought to keep in mind that, hey, as I'm learning these principles and tactics and strategies, let me go out and try them. And even if, even though something may work 90% of the time or 95% of the time, there's always going to be a possibility that it might not work in a particular context or situation with a particular person, because at the end of the day, we're human beings, right? And we're living in this thing called life, and so it's just something that's, I think, is important to keep in mind when we're, as salespeople, when we're working out there with real other human beings. Anyways, guys, hope you guys got value out of this video. If you guys did, please comment, share, and subscribe, and check out the blog as well. And let me know what kind of content that you guys want to see. Would love to serve you guys further. So thank you and have a great day.